Welcome to San Joaquin Spotlight, a public affairs program featuring conversations about life in the central San Joaquin Valley. This program is brought to you in partnership between KFSR 90.7 FM and CMAC Fresno. I'm your host, Sevag Tateosian. Today we're going to talk about music and a chorus, a community chorus, with my guest Alan Peters of the Fresno Community Chorus. Alan, welcome to the program.
It's a real pleasure to be here again, Sevag.
I should say welcome back. We've had you as a guest in the past.
I love to come because music is such an important part of my life.
So a couple of years ago when I had you on the program, we were in a little different studio on campus of Fresno State. When you got here today, what did you think?
Well, you were probably the one that thought, because here I come with a suit and tie and shirt. In the radio days, all you have to do is show up in your jeans and a sweatshirt and you can do the show.
So every time we talk to each other, it's about the community chorus.
Fresno Community Chorus.
Fresno Community Chorus. Can you tell our audience what that is?
Absolutely. It is a growing organization that is becoming more and more professional. It started as just a group of community people getting together to sing together important musical works. And over the years, and it's 56 years old, so it's been around quite a while. Over the years, we've grown in our ability to sing more difficult music. The Philharmonic, Fresno Philharmonic, chooses us often to sing with them some of the major choral and orchestral works. And we are really developing quite a name for ourselves. In fact, we're even thinking of changing our name down the road. We are often referred to as the Fresno Master Chorale.
Master Chorale.
So that may be the name we come up with, but we're talking about it.
That name, Master Chorale, sounds like you're doing some incredible work and you've got some incredible people singing in the choir. Talk about who's a part of this choir.
Oh, it's a whole cross-section of the community. Now, it's associated with Fresno State, so that it actually is also offered on their extension program. So people can take it for credit if they want to do that. So we've got some very skilled college students there. We've got young professionals singing. We've got old folks like me and a few others that have sung for many, many years. And so we are sort of a group of people that just love to sing and have developed our skills to the point where we can sing difficult music.
When it comes to music and talking about Fresno State, the name that comes to everybody's mind is Dr. Hamre.
Anna Hamre. Dr. Hamre is probably one of the greatest choral conductors in the country. We love to sing with her. We've had many directors over the years, and at this point, she's my favorite, and I've been there a long time.
What's her role? Because I've been to the performances. By the way, I enjoy it every time. And I see her out there kind of getting things going, pointing, moving her hands. What is she doing?
She's the artistic director and conductor, so that she has the entire ensemble at her disposal. She lets us know when we're doing well. She lets us know when we could improve. She lets us know when we need to be louder, softer. She conducts the tempo so that we know how quickly to sing. We follow her direction just consummately, and it's her hands that demonstrate all of the different directions that we as a chorus and orchestra. She's also a skilled orchestral conductor. Might say in that regard that she has the textbook out that is the world's sort of source for conducting and teaching sight reading.
She sounds like an important person to music. She sounds like someone who's been doing this for a long time. Talk about how significant she is to music.
Well, she just received the California State Award from the California State Music Educators Conference.
Wow.
And the President's Award was given to her this year, so it's an indication that she is well regarded in the choral and conducting community.
You mentioned earlier that this chorus has been around for over 50 years. You've been a part of it for a long time. Talk about how long you've been there and why you joined.
My wife and I started singing in the chorus shortly after we were married, and that would have put it in the middle 60s. So that's getting pretty close to 50 years ourselves. So we've sung there quite a while. There was a period of time when we were not singing in the chorus, but we returned to sing in it when Dr. Hamre came as the director.
When you joined this chorus, did you have a full-time job? And talk about the commitment that you made to come and sing in the chorus.
Oh yes, all of the chorus members, we don't pay the members of the chorus any salary. So everyone else has a job of some sort, either a paying job or they're homemakers at home. But we come from a whole, there are medical doctors, I was a social worker and was a county human services director. So I've been involved in very demanding occupations, as have many of the others. We have a lot of school teachers. We do, however, have a lot of professional musicians. Many of them are music teachers. Many of them are choral directors for colleges and high schools and elementary schools throughout the community and throughout the valley. We have people drive in each week from Coalinga, from Visalia, from other places, Madera, to join in this chorus because we provide a large choral organization that can virtually sing anything in the choral repertory.
When you joined around 50 years ago, it's obvious the community has changed. Has the chorus changed?
There's still some familiar faces there. In fact, Dr. John Donaldson, who's in the chorus, and I think you've interviewed him in the past, he has been a member of the chorus since it began.
That's
so
incredible.
He's been singing in the chorus continually for 56 years.
When it started, when you were first involved in it, were you performing at Fresno State or practicing at Fresno State?
I was a social worker, and what we were singing, my wife and I are both singers, and we both sing in the community chorus. We were singing with some of the other local groups too. We've sung with the Fresno Choral Artists. There were a number of smaller madrigal groups, one called the Fresno Early Music Singers. We've sung with just about, in fact, one of the local music media folks is Christina. Now her last name has failed.
From radio?
From KVPR radio, Christina.
But she's a part of the group as well.
We sang with her groups.
Wow.
I've played medieval instruments along with the early music groups that she, and I'll remember her name before the end of the interview.
I'm going to hold you to that. We're going to come back to that. Alan, I want to talk about your performance with the Philharmonic. You've partnered with them in the past, correct?
Yes, we've sung many, many works with them. The earliest work that I think I can remember singing with them was a very early version of the Verdi Requiem. We've sung virtually all of the major orchestral choral works, so that this is a lot of requiems. I've sung the Mozart Requiem with him several times, including once a month ago, and such things as Carmina Burana and Belshazzar's Feast by William Walton, many masses, even some operas. I remember the Philharmonic used to put on operas, and we were often the opera chorus, so I can remember doing a performance of Tosca.
What does it feel like to be on stage with the Philharmonic and Mr. Kuchar, who has a great reputation?
It's a wonderful experience because you really become emotionally involved with the music that you're singing. And so, for example, last month when we did the Mozart Requiem, we had rehearsed it under Dr. Anna Hamry. But he came into one of our rehearsals, and throughout the course of our rehearsals, Dr. Hamry had said, now remember, I'm only teaching you the music and my guess as to what Maestro Kuchar is going to expect and to do. And he came in then, and his tempi were different, his expectations were different, he wanted us to breathe at different places, and all of these things a chorus needs to be able to be flexible enough to do, to shift at any rehearsal and do something differently than what you've done. A director often will say, you know, I really don't like the way that sounded exactly, so let's try it another way, and sure enough, it's better that way. So you move. This is one of the professional things that a professional chorus like this is expected to do routinely.
What do you think his impression was of you and your group?
We were sort of overwhelmed this time because at the end of one of our dress rehearsals, he came through the orchestra, stood in front of us, and he reviewed the 11 years that he has been here so far. And he said, you know, when I came, you were a community chorus. And then he looked at us after a significant pause and said, "Now you are the community chorus." He was thrilled with the way we worked with
I
him.
want to stop you right there. And you're obviously in the audience when he's saying this. He's performed everywhere you can think of around the world. He's in demand all around the world. What are you thinking right when he said that?
Well, very proud of the chorus to begin with, but it brought to mind also that I travel to Ukraine often, and he has been the conductor of the Ukraine National Orchestra. And so just having that connection with him, and we've talked about Ukraine together, realizing that he represents the entire globe musically, and for him to comment that our chorus is one that he is thrilled to work with, and he has commented so positively about Dr. Hamre too. That makes all of us feel good, and I have a particular sense of pleasure in that.
Shifting gears a little bit and talking about the actual pieces that you and your group perform, they're somehow connected to Christianity because, you know, these are things that I read in the Bible. So talk about that.
Well, much of the great choral music repertoire is religious music because in the olden days, during the classical and Baroque and Renaissance periods, most music was performed because it was religious music. So that, for example, a lot of the great composers wrote music for religious purposes. Masses, requiems, which is a mass for the dead, oratorios. Handel wrote many oratorios, which are really basically retelling Bible stories in music. And so much of the music that choirs sing, and there are still church choirs, you don't really run into too many choirs that sing popular music. There are Fred Waring, I remember growing up, and a lot of others, the Swingle Singers and others. They are choirs that do music, but most great choirs get their reputation and their music from religious music. Now there are differences in religions too, so that you can find some good choral Chinese music, Buddhist music. You can find other, even in the religious music, Jewish religious music, Protestant religious music, Catholic religious music, Armenian religious music. We've done some Hovannessian, Alan Hovhannes. And so there are all sorts of different traditions, but because Christianity is pretty widespread, especially in the West, many of the composers have written religious music.
Can you convey feelings in the music that you perform? I mean, sometimes when you're talking about death, it's sad. And then when you're talking about joy, it's happy. How do you convey that when you're singing?
The composers help us a lot with this because they write the music with that purpose in mind. So you can often tell just from the way the music is composed whether it's happy or sad. But the chorus and the orchestra do add a lot to this. Certain instruments in the orchestra are more mournful than others. And so the composers will choose to use certain instruments. Same thing in a chorus. You can use volume as an indication, or speed, tempo. If it's a jolly, happy thing, it's usually faster. And if it's a little more mournful or sorrowful, it's slower. But the interesting thing about it is that in this upcoming concert we're doing on April the 14th, one of the pieces that the Fresno State Concert Choir is doing is called Triptych. And the author of that, Tarek O'Regan, he writes and says about that particular piece of music that he's trying to combat that trend. He says all of the music, choral music that is for sad purposes is usually slow. He has said that particular work he wrote thinking he wanted to write sad music that was fast. So the audience that comes out will be able to detect whether or not that works or not.
Now you have a poster that you brought today.
Yes.
It's right on the side of you. What is this, the poster for the event?
This is the coming concert, and it is this April the 14th.
Okay.
It's at the Sheboygan Performing Arts Center, which many people now are acquainted with because it's the best concert hall in the Valley for musical purposes. It's a Sunday afternoon, starts at 2:30. People will likely want to come at 1:30 because Dr. Hamre is going to present again a lecture preceding the concert, explaining the works of music that we will be doing and also talking a bit about them and their composers. So that the doors will open at 1:15 on April the 14th. The concert itself starts at 2:30 with a pre-talk at 1:30. People that are interested can go online, just Google Fresno Community Chorus, and it will be the top item that pops up, and you can even purchase tickets online. This concert, incidentally, is a new thing for us because we have established a senior rate for the first time.
Incredible. I've never heard of a senior rate when it pertains to your concerts, and I've followed you for several years.
Right. Well, the Fresno Community Chorus, because we sing the kind of music we do, has an obvious appeal sometimes to people that are a little more advanced in age, and we've always thought our major audience were seniors. But now we've discovered a lot of young people attending and a lot of folks that often haven't come. We've been selling out our concerts, I think you know, over the last several, so that we've changed this, and general admission is now $20 a seat, but for seniors and students, $15. So we have added seniors to the special rate category, and for the first concert in our history, we have a senior rate for the concert. It has three major works to it. The first work, which the Community Chorus will be singing, and it's the major work for the evening, is the Cherubini Requiem in C minor. And we can talk a bit about that also. Then the Fresno State Concert Choir, we've invited to come to this concert. They're going to be singing the O'Regan Triptych. And then, as a special added attraction, both choruses, which will involve more than 200 singers on stage, will come together to sing a fantastic work, which is Father Giovanni Battista Martini's Ad Juvendandum Me Festina, a Latin. We can talk a bit about Martini too, because there's some interesting things. I've got all sorts of things that we can talk about.
Why don't you? You're on the topic of Martini.
Okay.
Talk about Martini.
First of all, a joke about Martini is that many people are aware that there's a composer, a musician named Peter Schickele, who has spent his whole life creating an unknown son of Johann Sebastian Bach called PDQ Bach. Bach had 21 kids, so adding another one isn't really that hard. And so he created this PDQ Bach and some music, and he said that one of the phases of PDQ Bach's career was his Soust period. When most of the music that he wrote under the influence of having too much to drink. And so he said jokingly that one of his major sources of inspiration during his Soust period, this is PDQ Bach, was Father Martini. And I think it's because of the name more than the influence. But Martini was an interesting character. He was born in 1706. So he was an 18th century classical musician, wrote much religious music, but was more famous for being a famous teacher. He taught all music theory, harmony, counterpoint, all of the musical subjects that every composer is supposed to be good at. And he was the composer, teacher, that Leopold Mozart chose as the first teacher for our famous Wolfgang Mozart.
That's incredible.
So he was Mozart's first teacher, and he taught many, many other famous 18th century composers. Now his works have largely been unpublished, but in our chorus is a former director of the chorus and also music professor at Fresno State, Dr. Arthur Huff. I think you may have heard that name before. He has done special work in uncovering the works of Martini. And this particular motet that we'll be singing at the conclusion of this concert on April the 14th is this Ad Juvendandum Me Festina, which Domine. It's really Lord hasten to help me. And it's a wonderful, wonderful counterpoint piece that the choruses are enjoying singing.
I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about joining the Fresno Community Chorus.
Certainly.
How do you join?
There is an audition. People will go and sing with Dr. Hamre. Mostly that audition is to identify what voice they would sing and where they should sit in the chorus if they become a member, because we we try to develop a rather remarkable blend.
Okay.
One of the earmarks of a professional chorus is that the chorus has the right number of members of each part. And so blend is tremendously important, and certain voices that stick out if they have qualities, and you work on singers, and we all work for a number of minutes each rehearsal to work on our musical sound together. And so we vocalize and we develop a way of blending together, and it's one of the things that a community chorus and also a professional chorus has to work at, is blend. And so when a person auditions, you know where to put them in the chorus so that their particular quality of voice blends well.
And by that, are you talking about, let's say, soprano and those kind of names? Because, you know, the Sopranos I'm a fan of is the TV show, but I understand that there are other
yes.
more popular sopranos out there.
Now, much choral music is written for 4-part music, which is soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. It's called SATB, sort of. But there are also 8-part, 12-part, up to 20-part works for chorus, which means that there is a whole range of different voices. But the generally 4 categories that people fall into are soprano and alto, which is high treble, low treble, and then male voices, which are the tenor and the bass. Those are the ones for men and women. Now, Robert Shaw, famous conductor, choral conductor, he had an interesting approach in terms of this. He started with the very highest voice in the chorus, gave them the number 1. And he worked all the way down to the lowest male bass, which he gave the lowest number, the highest number. So he had his whole chorus from 1 to, let's say, 60. And when he would pull out a piece of music, he would say, the soprano part will be sung by numbers 1 through 12. The alto part by numbers 13 through 36. Mm-hmm. The tenor by 37th. And so you didn't know what part you were going to sing until he designated the range of numbers that were to be on each part. And so for an 8-part music, he would do the same thing. This was his way of showing that blend was the most important thing. And if he didn't like the way that sounded, he would change the numbers.
Interesting. You know, I want to talk about the chorus some more and ask why you've been a part of it for so long. I mean, it's almost going to be 50 years since you've been a part of it. That's a long time. Obviously, you're having fun doing it. Why?
I've sung since I was a child. And it started in church. There's your religious music part of it. I remember my mother sitting with me. She was a soprano, and I had not changed voice yet. So she pointed out in the hymnal, and we all used hymnals in those days, she pointed out the alto part, which she expected me to sing. And in our church, we all sang 4 parts. It was a church that always sang in 4-part, and many people will sympathize with that. Nowadays, a lot of churches sing only unison, the melody. But when I was a child, church music was sung by all 4 parts. So I got used to it and began to love it, even as a child. Went to school and was trained, even in public elementary school, in how to sing. In my junior high, I was part of the Boys Glee Club, singing with part music with other boys and men in the school. So I've just sung my whole life and have grown to love classical choral music so much that it is probably as important to me in my life as any other single thing.
Let's talk about the upcoming concert.
Yes.
When is it and where is it?
April 14th, 2:30 in the afternoon at the Performing Arts Center at North Clovis campus. It's called the Sheboygan Performing Arts Center. It's on University Avenue, North Clovis campus. Go to the website. You can click there and get all of the information. It will contain the Fresno Community Chorus singing the Cherubini Requiem. Haven't even talked about Cherubini yet. Then the Fresno State Chamber Chorale will sing the Triptych by Tarek O'Regan, and then together we will conclude the concert with the Martini piece that we've talked about.
And briefly, there's a lecture before. Now, this is something new because in the past, I've never remembered that there had been lectures before a performance. There's a lecture this time?
Absolutely. You know, hearing the music doesn't really prepare you for what you're hearing. But if you listen to the director saying things like, now listen for this part, and has it played either on a recording or on the piano, or tell you a little story about the particular piece, like I could tell you right now about the Cherubini Requiem that we'll be singing, give you a history of the composer, tell you a little bit about his life, what caused him to write the music, or her to write it if we had a female composer on the repertoire that day. But so much of music comes from being prepared to listen to it. And so the Philharmonic now regularly has the maestro or some other person giving an introductory lecture to let you know what to listen for when you're in the concert. It's a tremendous help for people that may not be as aware as others of the choral repertory.
Is it general admission, or do the seats have numbers?
It's general admission, so it's good to get there for the pre-talk, because that way you get to choose your seat. Now, since we sell out often, that means if you come a minute or two before the concert is scheduled to begin, you may be sitting in a less desirable place. But if you come for the talk, you're going to get a good seat.
I like the way you put that, less desirable place. We're running out of time this week on the program, but the Shigoyan Hall or Theater, what kind of building is it?
It's spectacular. In fact, there was a concert last fall by the famous men's choir from San Francisco called, you can tell I really have trouble in front of the camera with these names. Anyway, they sang, and we also had the Concordia Choir come. And the conductor came and said, we returned to the Fresno area because of the hall. He said, we sang here once, it was so spectacular. He said, and the Concordia Choir has sung around the world in almost every venue.
Wow.
He said, as far as he knows, it's among the top 2.
That's incredible.
Performing arts centers in the world.
Alan, thank you so much for coming on the program this week.
I had so much more to say. I'm sorry we ran out of time.
Next time.
Next time.
That's all for this edition of San Joaquin Spotlight. Thank you to the volunteer crew that made this production possible, including KFSR 90.7 FM and CMAC of Fresno. Our guest has been Alan Peters with the Fresno Community Chorus. That's all for this edition of San Joaquin Spotlight. Tune in next week for a new edition.